And, you know, Jonathan, I think the crazy thing was, so we were supposed to take this fight back in Baltimore in November, I think, and James doesn't have not to say the most optimal living situation, and so he actually lost a lot of documents, and his blood work had expired, and we had a copy of his license ID with the commission, but the lab would not accept that, so we ended up not being able to do the fight, and I think that Malik thought that we were scared of the excuse, so he originally
Mm.
this fight for basically nothing. Then he renegotiated. Then he negotiated again. Then he renegotiated again. Then he renegotiated again. And then ultimately took the fight. It's probably a career high payday for him. He fought a guy, a fight veteran heavyweight, for less money than for a title. Then he's fighting James Willis. And, you know, he's like called James a midget and things like he didn't ask for a midget pay.
Wow. Yeah, because I had an interesting time watching your interview with him, just kind of seeing, he seemed very reserved and quiet. You know what I mean? He didn't really seem as confident like most fighters are.
I mean, Malik's always really um, Malik, he pissed me off with this, but Malik is a boxing guy. He's in a team that I got a lot of respect for. Mac Allison, his head coach, and Ponytail Promotions. Like I like all of those guys. So I am bothered about the way the negotiations happened, but this isn't some thing where I'm going to be incendiary. And see, like James, none of it's personal with James. James just wants to hurt people in general. But this isn't like an incendiary situation. Like I think that after this, I think me and Ponytail still work together, Mac Allison's camp, and I would like to see where I'm still rooting for Malik Titus even after he gets a second loss.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So when we touched on the living situation, right, James? So where did you grow up, and how did your upbringing influence your path into boxing?
Mm, I bounced around a lot. I done lived in a lot of different locations. Uh, Southwest, Hurt Park, Roanoke. Um, lived in Carew. I moved to Salem for a little bit, and that was very different. Uh, yeah, not having a lot of stability uh, kind of ruins your resources sometimes. And you know, hey, I don't know. It was weird.
So how does that shape your desire in life, and how
It
does that
built an
give you hunger?
insatiable drive. Like I'll tell you that right now. If there's anything I can speak for, it's my heart. Anyone ever saying they got more heart than me is crazy. Cause I didn't get where I'm at from winning a bunch. You know, a lot of people win a lot to get to where they at. That's not how it went. I took a lot of L's, and I refused to keep taking them. So
When John, I think that there's a lot of people in Roanoke now that I think people are starting to recognize. And I think that they always thought that he would fail, and then somehow they thought that I was going to try to abuse him and run him in the ground or something. But what I've seen, you're in the desert, and there's this little plant growing out of a rock. It's probable, right? And nobody's ever helped it, never given it. And I just wanted to put some water on it, see what would happen. And now look, he, we're a year away from this guy being able to make a six-figure paycheck, in my opinion. And he's showing the bravery and the courage. Like there ain't nobody in their seventh fight fighting guys like Malik Titus. It's not happening. And like he don't ask no questions. I'm like, hey, I think we should take this step. All right, sign the contract. He's just old school. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm blessed that our paths crossed. I wish it would have happened earlier, so he didn't have to suffer so long. But things happen for a reason. Maybe a place emotionally and spiritually to where I could at that point. We probably would have destroyed each other 5 years earlier, to be honest.
So Scott, looking at your journey, how has some of your journey shaped your outlook when you went to help James?
Man, there was a fighter I had named Chauncey Fields. He ultimately ended up losing his life to things that were less savory for me. But he had got in a lot of trouble when he was younger. He served maybe 15 years in prison, and we started to turn his life around. And I came from body camp from very humble beginnings, but to try to say that I had a hard life compared to people like Chauncey and James, just not the case. You know what I'm saying? I mean, and Chauncey softened me in those ways, and to walk in his shoes and to be with him. And I think ultimately being with Chauncey, I think his purpose was to prepare me to help people like James and to try to, because I can relate. I think still it's even shocking to James sometimes how much like I could just see like we'll be talking, he'll be kind of taken aback. He'll be like, man, how in the hell is this rich white boy saying this? Right?
So, so when it comes to your, you getting in shape, Scott, and boxing, and now that you're looking at it from the promotion side and seeing your fighters like James, and I know you said you had a couple other fighters. How does that feel looking to see the actual growth?
Yeah, so I've got Austin Deonda and Willis that they're my two stars, and I trained them too. I also have Tristan Lackey. He's gotten off to a rough start. He's 0-2, but he's part of the family. James loves him. But I trained those three. Um, Bishop, he trains Christian Fuentes, major star from El Salvador that fights on the cards here. Um, Josh Tufty just signed with me. He's a 19-4 heavyweight. Used to spar with Vladimir Klitschko, and then indirectly I work with Rocky Zapata, and Dallas Brewer trains. So I don't work with all the fighters directly in the camps, but like James is a little more set in his ways because he's been on his own for a long time. So it's been difficult. I mean, we're working together and we're compromising and we're trying to make the progress. But he runs his gym, so when you get two bosses in there, you gotta. But he's done a great job. I mean, he's a big, powerful man, and he's checked his ego and he's trying to learn all the time. And I'm learning from him as well.
Good, good. So when it comes to those learning lessons, right, and you two being kind of the same but different, what have you taught the other person? Start with you, James. What do you think you've actually taught Scott?
No, crazy, John.
uh,
Nothing crazy, James.
I don't know, man. I do think I can see the people around me changing with my influence, but I don't know what I'm teaching. I'll be honest with you, but it's a lot of reality, or at least I think so.
Reality. All right. So what about you, Scott? What have you taught James?
I'm hoping I can. I think I'm showing him there's hope. I think I'm constantly showing him that, and that's the real goal for me, right? I want him. We were talking about these fights coming up, and and I'm real frank with them. I'm like, look, we're gonna have to suffer to get to this point. I was like, you're gonna have to suffer a lot more than me, but I think that's the one thing. Being who I was, and I don't think a coach or a promoter ever had to be a fighter. I think there's great promoters and trainers that were non-fighters. Some of the greatest even. Um, but I think someone like James, when the order comes from a general that already paid that same price, I think it means a lot to James.
Okay. So James, when it comes to March Madness, what would a victory mean to you, and what would that do for your career?
Um, Help me climb that ladder. It's all about climbing the ladder. I need the boost, and some people need to be sacrificed. That's all it is.
Okay. So what are some of your goals for your career? Like say within the next 3 years.
I want to fight everybody. I want at least 50 fights, bro. I'm in the next 3 years. I don't know. I just want to squabble. I ain't gonna lie to you. I want to be known. All right, you gotta feel me. People gotta feel me. I want to squabble all the good people.
So do you have your top three or top two?
No, it's literally everyone. I literally want to
Everyone.
fight everyone who wants to fight me, or some people who don't. Shit. I mean, like I want the smoke. literally everyone. You send your vote and cast a vote, and I get to you.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So Scott, so what challenges have you faced trying to manage and run a boxing gym and also promotion?
Um, you know, I struggled so much in the beginning. I laid the foundation. I paid the price so much, and I think and James, he's been living my life with me. And I mean, I can't say there's a problem. I mean, man, I'm living almost the only thing is my children live 5 hours away from me. That is the only bad thing in my life. Like, I mean, what I'm doing with boxing on this regional level, powerhouse that I've built, the combatants that I've surrounded myself with, like James WIllis, Austin John, and Christian Fuentes. I'm blessed. Um, I mean, I can't complain. You know what I'm saying? Like James said something. We're talking about some guy being cut from the cloth, and James was like, "It's really easy when you're the person to decide the cloth's cut from." So I mean, that's like the greatest compliment he ever gave me, right? I mean,
Yeah.
uh, I think a win here for James. I think it's going to legitimize. We stepped up one guy, Burrito, who had a couple hundred amateur fights. I think they might have both been 3-0 at the time, and James lost a split decision. I mean, I think at that point the boxer knew um, that he was for real because everybody thought that fight was a joke. Like the other guy's manager was laughing, and then all after 3 rounds he won't laugh. He was getting scared, threatening to sue with referees and stuff. That's what these rich guys do. These suits that come in. By the way, his name's Donato DeMartis. That guy's just a complete piece of shit. He has no idea about boxing. He needs to go sit back behind the desk again. He pretended to be a boxer once. I think he was 1-3 and got knocked out. A guy that was 0-5. But anyways, there's a
Wow.
rant. There's my rant on that guy. But a win here with Malik Titus uh, it would legitimize his efforts, and also James hasn't had great quality of opposition to this point, besides Burrito, where we dropped the decision. And that's because, I had a lot of resources hemmed up in Austin Deonda. And those efforts ultimately resulted in being on ESPN. And he's just several fights away from a world title. So it's James's turn. So now James is going to get the full backing promotional funding to get those quality opponents that he needs to prove to the world that he belongs on that national stage, and I think he's going to do that.
Okay. So James, when Scott talks about that loss, right, and a lot of times in our world of sports, a loss is really a failure, but it's really a lesson, right? So could you go over like what did you take from that loss and how did it help you become a better fighter?
I learned a lot. See, I didn't get a lot of coaching, so I'm learning on the fly. And like before that, I felt like I was having a lot of time. I'm just like trouble dealing with people. I learned a lot of footwork, a lot of head positioning on the inside. I learned a lot about the clinch game. I learned a lot, and I evolved through that match, I believe. And some other people had to feel it because those were quick matches after that, and somebody else about to have to feel it too. So you'll see the evolution.
Gotcha. So James, what are some of your biggest inspirations in life, and how does that influence your style of boxing?
Uh, so we're gonna have to say something about like right now. I'm feeding a lot off Cujo. He's kind of like my main, uh, like just source of knowledge for the sport. I'm not the type to be looking up to a lot of people, bro. I'm trying to call my way up. I don't really think about other people like that. Like I want to be respectful and give all the greats they respect, but I just don't. What's the point? Y'all always talk about them. Like let's, you know what I'm saying? Like I am my inspiration. I'm burning. I'm on fire. This make my blood boil. I'm trying to get up out of the struggle. I don't need no more inspiration. These bills inspire me to keep going.
Yeah, so talk about that a little bit. So how do you think it's someone that's going through or have went through the same thing that you went through, right? And they're watching you literally fight. So how was that fight parallel to the fight of life that most people will actually go through?
So this one's just physical. The mental way, them punches feel the same. The mental punches feel the same. So you might as well fight. I mean, What's the point of sitting back and getting beat up in the corner? A lot of people do that, and that's what life will bring to you if you let it, or you can fight back.